Hello, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness. And before we get going, I have to possibly apologize in advance. I have my puppy in the room with me today, and every once in a while, he does like to bark at things that he only hears. I definitely don't hear them. So just in case that happens, we'll figure it out. But I did want to apologize in advance just in case that happens. But he needed a little mama love today, so he's in here with me. But anyway, I'm excited about today's guest. I met her a while ago, and she's an amazing soul and just so much fun. And she has a wealth of knowledge. I'm excited to have her on the show. Let's welcome Tana Newberry. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Hi.
So glad to have you here. I've been looking forward to this since we first met. I've never met anybody quite like you. You're
I get that a
definitely
lot.
a woman of service. Yeah. No, I mean, in the most wonderful way, not like, wow, you're a weirdo, but more like, wow, that's really cool. You're really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have an interesting mix of passion / entrepreneurial ventures, and intuition, is in the thread of all of it. And so that does make it a little unique.
I love that. And I would love to start out with you telling us a bit about yourself and your wellness journey.
Yeah, sure. So I am, well, I'm an international psychic reader, and what I focus on is mentoring divinely driven psychic readers that are wanting to book more clients and build six-figure businesses. And rewind back to the beginning of it. Of course, I was a psychic reader first, but my story sort of starts a little bit before that, about how psychic stuff started happening. And with your permission, I'll go back that far. Is that okay?
I would love for you to. I'm always fascinated, so I definitely want to hear about this.
Okay, because we're going to get personal for a minute. So, growing up, you jokingly use the word weird. We also refer to weird as woo woo. It's all interchangeable. But, when I was growing up, I was pretty normal. I was a cheerleader. I was class president. I was homecoming queen, just like normal teenage stuff. I didn't really connect to my intuition. I know now from working in this field for a long time that the kids that are sort of having their intuition come up early, often they struggle at a young age to find it all. But for me, my real psychic ability came just a bit later. The circumstance was I had a romantic relationship that as a young little person in high school was my whole world. And I was always sort of defining myself in this relationship. I thought, since I wasn't that great of a student, and I don't know. I always found myself in belonging within this relationship. And it was like a good 7-year relationship by the time I was 21, and struggling now to find my own identity. Right. And I know it shouldn't have hurt that bad, but it did. It really, really rocked me. And at that age, it was really all I knew. And I remember one night just being in so much pain shortly after the relationship ended. And a friend handed me a drug, which I did not understand what it was. I really didn't know what it was. She just said, "Here, this will make it go away." So I tried a drug for the first time, and I lost about 3 years of my life in deep drug addiction, because that first time is all it took. It was like my whole life changed. My whole life changed in a blink of an eye, and I hadn't even thought it through. That second came and it went, and on just this knee-jerk reaction of, yes, I want to escape my pain, I ended up, just fast forward, I'll just say that it was a 3-year problem that literally started in that moment, just from trying to run away from the pain of a high school breakup. And what happened one day is, first of all, I was never really great, Julianne. I was never really great at maintaining myself very well as a drug addict. Some people who I actually think are a little less lucky can actually maintain themselves. And I couldn't. I was kind of like the crazy girl in the corner type of thing. And one day I had done way too much. And I actually had an overdose. And I identify as someone who's had a near-death experience because in and out of my body, I was floating, and I was at death's door. And at that time, I started hearing a voice, and the voice was a female voice, real sweet. It said, "I'm your great grandmother. It's not your time. You're hearing me now to save your life."
Wow.
And what happened is, I believe I knocked on death's door a number of times that day, over and over and over. And every time I would get close to the white light, the tunnel vision would start to overcome me. I would hear this woman's voice claiming to be my great grandmother. She would say, "Wiggle your toes, wiggle your hands. I need you to look left and right." And she would do these little body movements and brought me back into my body. And in between these moments of slipping out of my body, I'd be in conversation with her just through my thoughts. And I said, "Well, what's happening?" And she said, "Life is going to be different now. Now you can hear. You're also going to be able to see and to know." And she said, "But right now we just need to focus on saving your life." And at the time, I really didn't even know who this woman was. I mean, I hate to say it, so many people are very connected to their family members and they know their ancestry. And again, I'm not very great at that. I didn't know who this woman was. I learned later, and I'll tell that story in a second. But what ended up happening is emergency services came, and my life was saved. And shortly after, I came to realize that I was struggling to know what was real and what wasn't real, because here I was having the introduction of what was like psychically happening to me, but I was also taking a very serious drug that makes you like hallucinate a little bit. So I lost touch of reality. And so here was great grandmother who saved my life, or angelic voices talking to me. But here was also some belief systems that seemed really outlandish. And we don't have to go into detail all of them. But if you ever sit down with coffee for me sometime, I'll tell you some of the crazy things that were going on in my head. But I came about 6 months later. It was so hard to tell what was real, that what wasn't, that I was told in a moment where I picked up my very last drug. I picked it up and I was going to use it. And I heard a voice, this time a stern, almost like an angelic, a male voice this time. He said, "Tana, if you do that one more time, you'll never know the difference between what's real and what's not real."
Ooh.
And I went right to my parents' house. I have wonderful parents who sacrificed and did so much for me. I went right to my parents' house and I said, "I know you know it, but I need help and I'm ready to get it."
Wow.
And I got clean and sober. I have 18 years clean and sober now.
Wow.
And my plan, the higher plan for me, worked, because all of the craziness that I couldn't tell, the hallucinations obviously went away, but the psychic abilities stayed. And so within about a first year of being sober and figuring out the difference, it was like the crazy stuff was starting to subside, but the psychic stuff was becoming more clear and more capable to be heard and understood. Within my first year, I went about a year, and then I decided to go start taking some deeper mastering and training and resources for me as a psychic to understand what was going on. And I learned that the reason for all of it had to be the reason I stayed on the earth, the reason this happened to me, the reason I was having psychic thoughts daily. It had to be in order to help people. It had to be, because if it wasn't, I really was ready to check out, Julianne. I was ready to check out. So that's what started my career as a psychic reader.
I am just like blown away. First of all, I want to say thank you for sharing, because, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily want to share that part of themselves, but it really explains a lot of things, and it makes it okay for other people to talk about, what's going on with them. So thank you. My first question is, when the psychic abilities really you started to differentiate and realize, that this was real. I mean, I don't want to use like quotes, but you understand what I mean. Real
Absolutely.
as in energetic and not a hallucination.
Yep.
Did that seem more real to you than walking around?
Yeah. So this is, trust me, my first few years, especially year number one, but in my first few years, as a psychic, I'll say,
Mhm.
meaning just really I mean, it was like when I got sober, I had to figure out, I was obsessed, Julian. I was obsessed. What is real and what is not real? And
Mhm.
actually, what that ended up doing is creating this really, really, really good baseline of being able to help others with that, because that is a question. How do you
Mhm.
know if trust me, am I crazy? You know, lock me up. Am I making this up? Is it just my thoughts? I mean, I even wrote like a 60-page manual. It's like a little mini ebook, which was called Spirit Is That You? How to Tell the Difference Between, a psychic hit and a personal thought. And then even further,
Mhm.
if you get a psychic hit, how to tell what it means. And I wrote about a secondary thing called what is it? Spirit is Speaking. So this is a question. This is a question. How did I personally figure it out? Basically, it sounds a little silly, and I wouldn't suggest this to my psychic reading clients today. But every time I got a psychic hit, silly enough, I would ask somebody if it was true. I was so invested in knowing whether I was crazy or not. And I say crazy lovingly. Some people don't think that I'm using crazy as a derogatory. I'm not. I'm using crazy just to a word to describe the insanity, which is like uncertainty, right? Um,
Mhm.
but basically, what I would do is I started testing the theory a lot. I started going to people and asking if they wouldn't mind if I could ask them a few questions, hopefully nothing like personal or deep. But I would ask, I'm sorry, as long as I knew them, they were an acquaintance, right? Usually not a stranger on the street. Not to say that had never done it. Um, but usually I would say, I know you don't know me that well, but if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question that's something about, spirit on the other side. Do you by any chance have a grandmother? What did she look like this? Was this her name? If I say the message, you know, um, the bracelet is in the closet, does that make sense to you? Like I went on a total rampage. Just like I kept asking people over and over and over and testing the theory of me being psychic. I mean, I tested it every single day, all day. And so what it came down to, Julianne, what it came down to is just my accuracy. I knew beyond the shadow of a doubt, and more each time I asked, how relevant it was. And
Mhm.
because the things that were unclear and very strange subsided in the first year after I'd gotten clean and sober, I started to have an awareness of the way my abilities worked and what they were capable of from that test, from that ask, from that, you know, little data research opportunity I had when I asked somebody if that message hit for them. And I probably did it a little too much. Okay. So that's why I don't suggest it to all my clients today. I have, ways to help them get their data and research. But I actually think that one of the best things you can do for your intuition, if you're feeling intuitive yourself, is to have a safe way of being able to really get to know what your abilities can do. And so it's a big part of what I teach today when I'm helping people, master their pro level skill sets. But yeah, it's a doozy. I had to test the theory over and over before I built that trust.
That's just, and I love that you did. I mean, like you said, it's maybe not the way you did it is what you would recommend for everyone, but I'm glad that you did because, as somebody, I'm intuitive. I would never call myself psychic. Other people would call me that. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not like that. But just it's always like, huh, is this real? I mean, or to just like, should I really say that? Like sometimes it's like, if something just pops into my head and I feel like this overwhelming urge that it doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know why I'm saying it, but I'm like, here you go. I hope this helps.
Well, if I could, I'd like to just touch on the word intuitive versus psychic. Would that be okay?
100%.
I think a lot of people, especially a lot of my clients, when they first find me, they're uncomfortable with the word psychic because they think that it might mean like just someone who's really, really good at being intuitive. And it's actually the meanings of the word are a little different than that. It's not about a hierarchy of one thing being stronger or more natural. Really, the difference between intuition is you learning how you feel in like is the information about you. Like if you walk into a place and you're looking around and you sense a future in it. Like let's say you want to speak on stage one day
Mm-hmm.
and you go to like this conference and you look at the stage and you have an intuition, which is something about you that you see yourself there in the future. That's intuition. It's an inner knowing about yourself. Psychic actually means a knowing about the world around you. So, so psychic is not a difference in level of skill set. It's just a difference in whether you're intuiting something that's in your court about yourself and your own life, or whether you're intuiting it on behalf of someone else in their life, which is why we use the word psychic when we talk about psychic readers, because they're intuiting about others, right? And intuition is originally supposed to be a word just describing your own knowing about yourself. But usually when you're intuitive, you're also psychic. And when you're psychic, you're probably intuitive. So the two words are not stacked in a hierarchy. They mean different things. Isn't that interesting?
I'm so glad you said that. Even if that was just for me. Sorry, everyone. If that was just for me. That is such that just makes me feel really good. I don't know. It just hits home. It's just a description of where it's pointed versus, like you said, level of
Isn't
ability.
that interesting? Because so many people, I hear a lot, the same thing like you said, oh, I'm not psychic. I'm intuitive, but I'm not psychic. And I always like to tell people, I love taking those little nasty taboo words and like taking them off the shelf and brushing them off and showing you like, see, it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah,
we talk about that
exactly.
in my business. We talk about that with all sorts of things, especially, money mindset or your abilities or, different things that sometimes we create as taboo. But yeah, the psychic word, it's not as taboo as you think. It just means, vision turned outer usefulness versus vision turned personal usefulness, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That is absolutely amazing. Okay. So, yeah, I'm blown away. I need a minute to process that. So it just happens to coincide with commercial time. So we're going to be back in just a moment. And for those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation and maybe we can demystify a few more words or ideas so that, it doesn't have to be all one way or all the other. Like that word woo woo kind of is like a nails on a chalkboard for me. I don't know about you guys, but there's nothing wrong with energy and there's nothing wrong. I mean, there's more to our meat suit and most of us already know that. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. But we're going to talk more about that when we come back. We'll be right back after these messages.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I am Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and today's amazing guest is Tana Newberry. Let's bring her back. Welcome back to the show.
Hey.
So, we've been talking a little bit about, like, I don't want to get into like definitions right this moment, because I feel like that could, lead us down a different path than where I want to get the most value out of having you here with us today. And one of the things that you mentioned is that you have one hand over here kind of like in the energetic world, and then you utilize that in like the nuts and bolts of everyday life, helping people. So I had this what's it called? Spiritual mentor. And he always said that if you can't use it, then it's not actually valid. So I always found that interesting, because I've heard, spiritual people, and I'm just saying spiritual, and you'll understand. Say just because God said so, or blah, blah, blah. And it's never made sense to me. I'm like, well, why does it have to be one or the other? But it should make sense to me in my everyday life. Otherwise, why am I here in this body? So I'm just curious if you could share a little bit about how you have translated, what you've learned and to help others.
Yeah. So for me, it started, back when I was figuring out if I was really psychic or not. It started with just sharing messages.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I had a sense, Julianne, that the reason why I was alive was because and with this ability now, it must be in order to use it. That was the one thing that was clear to me from the beginning. And in the beginning, I desired, like a lot of the people that find me today, they're aware that they want to channel whatever that thing is that's greater to them than, some people do say, like Neil Donald Walsh writing a book, Conversations with God. He's channeling and using his psychic abilities to have a conversation with like God, right? Mm-hmm. And then we see a lot of people in the spiritual field who really like to work with like the angelic realm. So regardless of who or what you're connecting to, I think all people who, move into the work of being a reader or a spiritual messenger, they just want people to have access to something they know in their heart of hearts is true. And you look around the world and you see people who don't deeply know what the intuitive, what the psychic deeply knows, and they wish to bridge the gap between that. And, I often say, light workers, or we'll say if they get into the profession of psychic reading or healers of any kind, I think we're all just trying to bridge heaven and earth here, and it's not like we think we're better or that there is, again, anything about a hierarchy. It's not that. It's just that we've seen or can see or feel something that we wish everybody could see or feel. Like, for example, ever since I stayed on the planet after that overdose, I was deeply moved by what I knew and what I felt and what I was being told and what I was seeing and all the things that came in. I became very psychic really instantly. And that's why it was crazy for a minute. But at the end of the day, when I don't joke about it being, crazy, and oh my goodness, I was going around trying to say what's real and what's not. If you just put a pin in that and I stop making jokes, it's the most life affirming thing that you'll ever feel or know is to feel something more than what meets the eye. It's a forever changing, extremely moving experience to know or to have or to see or to connect with something that is more than ever has met the eye. And so for me, and for a lot of the people who find me, who desire to follow in my footsteps and create this as a business, as a life, we simply can't keep the secret. And we
Mhm.
know that the wisdom and the power of what it is that's changing our life can change others. And we are truly so fulfilled by sharing the insight and the wisdom and the love and the healing and the comfort and all the things that this energy brings. We're moved by being able to impact others with it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I love that. I just it's like keeping the song inside of you. You actually get to sing it. So
Very much like that. That's a great metaphor.
I love that. So what does it look like to work with you?
So, for the past, like almost 18 years now, almost nearly 2 decades now, I've been a psychic reader. So I used to do like 10 readings a week. I'd usually be booked 6 months plus in advance.
Mhm.
And I would just serve people for a living. We would do like just a little less than an hour. And I would hop on with people and we'd talk about whatever they needed clarity of in their life. And so the readings was pretty much as you'd think. You can bring anything and ask questions, and I would answer them based on what I was being shown or told. I did specialize in future predictions, not necessarily world events, but in your own personal life. You wanted to
Mhm.
sell your house, you wanted to manifest love, you wanted to talk about your investments, you wanted to talk about your future babies, you wanted to talk about, you know, somebody you met, a relationship, whatever it was. I was able to look at the timelines really easily, and that's why a lot of people really loved me. Um, but today it looks a little different because while I do have my hand in performing psychic readings quite a bit
Mhm.
at events, I get booked to do retreats, personal development events, business events. Even I get booked to do these things. Usually, they want to see a little bit of a psychic performance, so I do a lot of group things now. I'm also going to be opening myself up for periodic events that are virtual as well, so that people can still get a reading. But I shut down my schedule at the end of last year because Spirit was moving me to start working to make a greater impact, to work beyond my own capacity, and start really empowering the new wave of intuitives and readers and healers who needed to know how to put a structure in place so that their business could be profitable. I believe that income and impact come at the same time,
Mhm.
because income is, I believe it's all one breath, breathing in and breathing out. It's all one breath. And your impact is equal to the energy exchange it comes back to you. It has to be, or it's not a balanced breath. It has to be. So while some people want to get their healing work out there, again, talking about taboo is like making money or wanting
Mhm.
money or desiring money or having money or spending money, right? When you are a light worker, people have a real hard time with that. And Spirit has just shown me, Tana, as we've supported you, as we've supported you in balance with the impact you've always doubled down and made more impact. You've always doubled down and grown your ability to help people. It's not, I was shown very early that the Spirit wanted to support me so that through me making money, believe it or not, I can help more people. Whether
Mhm.
that means one on one or just more people that are reaching my content, or more people that are now able to work with readers who've learned under me, right? And so I have this thing in my business now where I'm a little bit triggering for some, but I'm gonna say it's an unpopular opinion, I know, but I believe, let me just say something that I think everyone's going to respond to. What does it feel like when I say that spiritual entrepreneurs should get paid for their gifts just like pro athletes get paid for their gifts? How do we feel about
Amen.
How do we feel about that? And if that doesn't feel true, I'm going to ask you, do you think the money is bad? Do you think the money wouldn't go towards allowing you to continue to sustain doing this work? I'm not saying be greedy. I'm not
Mhm.
saying, you know, go do whatever doesn't feel in alignment with the money, but I'm also not saying you can only have it because you'll give it away. I'm saying let the breath move in and out. Allow yourself, and this is maybe for anybody, not just readers and light workers, okay? Hear me now. the energy you put into the world, let the energy come back, because it's only by a balanced breath can we now expand the breath or deepen the breath. If it's out of balance, I mean, that's why people get burnt out, because in some way, whatever they're giving and receiving is out of balance, they get burnt out. And so for us, for a light worker, sometimes that means we have to talk about money, because light workers, a lot of times, psychic readers that come to me that want to know, how did you make this work, Tana? How did you impact all these people? And how did you get really good at readings? Well, people kept booking them. That's how I got really, really good. People kept booking them. And how did I continue being able to fulfill these readings? I made enough money to make a career. And was it okay that the money I spent wasn't just, giving it away? I created the quality of my life that I need to show up and serve greater, and then greater, and then greater, and then greater. And Spirit has supported me in divine equal balance of energy exchange. And so today, not only do I help readers with that, but then once we fix that train of thought, we get into the very specific psychic reading business marketing strategies. And I really help people today figure out how to reverse engineer a 6-figure psychic business, which means they're serving bigger, they're serving greater, more people are touched, more people are moved, more people are healed. And that is ultimately the divine mission of a light worker of any kind.
Yes, absolutely. As you were speaking, I was thinking, I think a lot of light workers and healers have this, this idea that when they accept money in exchange for their gifts, it's like they're just taking without giving. And because it maybe, it comes naturally, or like they just want to help everyone, which I also understand, that as well. But ultimately, it's kind of like tough love is still love in my mind. And you have to have some sort of balance in order to continue and grow, like you've been talking about. Like you can't just keep giving and not accepting. It just blocks up the energy flow.
Everything is energy, Julianne, and everything seeks balance before it grows. I mean, imagine you're at a ropes course, okay, one of those crazy ropes courses, and yes, you're tied, so the universe has you. But imagine you're supposed to, walk up this entire big, huge, they do there's the one thing, the big jump. I don't know if you've ever been to a ropes course, but there's a big jump. There's like a wooden post, right? And you have to kind of go up the wooden post, and on top of it there's the diameter of maybe a dinner plate. Okay, and you're supposed to stand on the diameter of the dinner plate, and you're supposed to at some point jump out and grab a trapeze that's just a ways away. And it's a risk. You might not get it, and you're strapped up, so you're fine. It's not dangerous, but it feels very dangerous. And I'm going to ask, who would get to the top and just leap really quick? Like who would do, like, instead, the best strategy is to get up there, get stable, take a breath, and then make a meditated leap, right? And so a lot of times when we want to expand our reach, if you're hearing me today and you're like a light worker of any kind, or maybe you're just, not in the like, you didn't like the word woo woo, if you're not in that realm, you're a healer of some other kind, hear me now. Like, it's really, really hard when the oxygen mask isn't on you. You have to be able to sustain this balance, and you can't grow unless it's sustainable. And if you can't grow, your mission can't be served. And if your mission can't be served, I believe that Spirit will have a harder time working through you. And I really, really, really believe, if you're hearing me now and you want anything in the category of what we've been speaking of, like intuition or helping people or healing people, you have to be able to breathe in and breathe out in equal measure. And if you want to expand your reach, you're going to have to, or expand your impact, you're going to have to expand the energy that comes back to you. And the easiest way for the world sometimes, not always, but the easiest way sometimes for the world and its inhabitants to give you an energy exchange is money. Mm-hmm. I mean, I used this example the other day. I said, what if you ordered a pizza and he came over and you said, what'll it be? And he said, well, I need my car washed. I need some new boots. That should do it. And you're like, I'm unavailable for that. How about $25? And he's like, yeah, $25. So you have to understand that money is good for others to spend too. It's an energy exchange. It's neither good or bad. It's just a thing. It's just a tool. Money is not good or bad. It's just an exchange. And so when you're a light worker and you know that you need exchange to stay balanced, money is often the easiest answer for everyone around. It is not the root of all that's evil. It's the easiest energy exchange so that you can create mobility with your impact and move it greater if you need to, if you want to, if you're called to, if it's time.
I love that. It's one of those, like you mentioned, taboo subjects, and it's
It is.
I get it, but I don't agree with it. To me, it's like, I celebrate wanting money and having it, because then I can use it to help others. Like you said, I'm not going to give it all away, because if my grass isn't watered, then it dies. So
it feels good to give it away sometimes, sure. But a lot of times my light workers go, oh, no, I'm okay with getting money because I give it away. That's why I'm worthy of it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you're missing the point, because that's like taking your mask and going, oh, thank you. I'll take my oxygen mask. Yes. But I'm just going to show it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And you're constantly, but you do have the option to help others. And of course you will. That's not, and I know it is taboo, and people started talking to me as like the money mindset psychic, and I'm like, I don't know how I got into this money mindset. I just had a belief that we had to talk about before I taught you how to make money. Like, really, I'm much more of a marketing genius than I am a money mindset coach. Like, believe it or not, we've been talking about money mindset, but that's only because you have to fix that before I can help you get money, or else you won't even think it's possible. And you won't even be able to handle any of the thing I'm teaching you to get money. And again, it's not just about money. Income is impact. Income is impact. Impact is income. Impact is income. The reason why is because it's all in a balanced energy exchange. It's balanced whether you lean on it being balanced or not. Whether you like it or not, this universe is balancing itself every day. Whether you're on the right side of it or the wrong side of it intentionally, this universe is balancing things every day. And so we just have to talk about that. And then once that's clicked, I'm like, okay, let's go. Now we're gonna build your impact and your empire and your influence, and everything we're gonna do with that is gonna be spirit driven.
I love that. On that note, it is time for us to go to one more commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And for those of you who, I already said, watching us live, so now it's on demand, because that's where the party's at. Thank you for being here. As I mentioned, it's time for us to go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to start talking a little bit more about these systems, because even if you're not a light worker, this might actually help you too. So, but I think a lot of the people who are watching are. Anyway, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Tana back to the show. Welcome.
Hello.
So, we've been talking about so many amazing things, but I really am curious, like when you talk about systems, because you and I talked about this a little bit privately, but I think a lot of people, just in general, even are a little scared of the idea, or that maybe, especially if they're a healer, that it's not so intuitive. And, there's so many different excuses to not learn something new and step into that. I'm just curious, with what you teach now, is this something that you figured out, through trial and error, or is it, how did it come about?
Well, the first thing to know is that everybody really does have an intuition. Everybody has intuition. The reason why I would say also that everyone is psychic is because you have that innate power to turn inward or outward. Usually we're a little more naturally inclined to just tune it inwards and never intend to tune it outwards, but it's the same mechanism. It's the same way that I'm sure, Julianne, you stepped into a room and you immediately sort of felt the energy in it, right? I'm sure you've met somebody and felt really great about them instantly, or maybe like a little like I don't want to say turned off by someone instantly, right? We've all known when someone's needed a hug, whether we've done it or not. We've known. You've known. We can sense that. We've picked up an item at a store and immediately was drawn to it. We don't know why, right? There's these ways that this works in our life every day. And then if you're one of those people who has a vision for being able to use these skills to help somebody, the first thing I would say is that so you want to get your connection to the point where you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to create competence, which means I really, really not only know how to connect and know how I connect, but I know how I can use this connection in the platform of like exchanging information, like during a reading. And then you want to have confidence by basically just like I received when I went and asked everybody all those. Remember, I was very proof seeking. I was very proof seeking at the time. You sort of want to get this awareness of what it is that you can do and how it works so that your confidence level goes up. I believe mastering your magic is the first key. If you're following in a footstep like mine, or you're interested in, really knowing what my work is about, the first step is really about just accepting that you have these abilities and you accept that you desire and are feeling called to work as a reader. And then the next part is just, mastering your magic, getting really aware of how it works. And I call that connection, competence, and confidence. And then when you are feeling like you're ready to really start putting yourself out there professionally, that's when we start talking about getting you paid. Because if you want to be a professional and impact people on a level that professionals do, just basically needing time and energy alone, okay? Like if you're wanting to book 10 readings a week, that's time and energy. You need to be confident enough to hold those 10 hours of readings and to have them want to rebook. And like, if you want to be a professional reader, there needs to be the part where we're now talking about really how to fill and book your schedule. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what part you're asking about in general, but for me, if someone wants to follow my footsteps or know what my work is about, it's about accepting your calling and identifying whether this is a calling and really getting to the point where you're aware of that inner desire. Mm-hmm. Number 2, mastering your magic and becoming really, really good at what you do and really aware and really confident in what you do. And then number 3 is figuring out how to monetize it so that you can continue to create a space in your life and in your schedule and in your day and in your family's life and schedule and day, right? To be able to sustain this work, which means we got to talk about the profitability of your business and how we're getting leads and how we're booking these 10 people a week or 20 people a week, right? I teach people that 10 readings a week can make you a 6-figure psychic business. And more importantly, you're touching 10 times 52 weeks of people, and you're literally channeling spirit that much in that year. And so it's not just about the money or just about, channeling. It's about the equal balance of two. It's about the balance to be sustainable so that everybody is able to continue, which is really important. There's a lot of light workers out there who are beautiful and very capable of putting so much amazing light and love in this world. But if they can't get supported, the flame dies. They burn out. And I'm not saying never just give advice for free. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying allow the universe to support you through a structure that allows that, so that you can sustain doing this for a living. So all year long, spirit can use you to give those messages and share that light and love.
It's just that flow of energy that you're, talking about. And I also, I was thinking about, if you help those 11 people, it's not just them that you're touching, it's who they touch too. So it's like that ripple effect of positivity. There's and I'm going to mess it up, but there's some sort of a fact that basically says there's 6 degrees of separation. So every time you make a healthy choice in your life, like say, quit smoking, that it affects out. You doing that for yourself affects people out in a wellness ripple.
Wellness ripple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, I think that's such an amazing way to show up in the world instead of, not that other jobs are not, just as relevant or important. It's just, I think we, like people who are healers and intuitive or psychic don't necessarily understand the value of, what they're doing, because it feels so good too. Like, how could I get paid for something that feels good?
Well, again, you have to really, my personal opinion is, you have to really look in your life at how many things you're creating hierarchies for. This is better than that. This is more important than that. This is more ethical than that. And just realize that we're all very different, and we all have very different callings. And even as readers, they'll say, oh, this one person is really special, and I'm just over here doing this little thing. It's like, you have to understand that every single calling, every single soul is a puzzle piece that answers a hole in the world somewhere. I believe that our gifts and our destinies, whether we be psychics or not, okay, even those pro athletes I mentioned earlier, I believe that everybody's calling and gifts are an answer to the world's prayers. I do. I believe we're all a puzzle piece that fits in a very special thing that's only designed for exactly what we are. And so we have to be aware that we're all together linked up in the same puzzle. There's no hierarchy here, and everyone needs a balanced energy exchange to continue, just like breath. That is the breath. And so it's not me putting down pro athletes for making money. It's saying that there's no hierarchy here. So it's not even, if you feel called, you feel called. And if you are, then your puzzle piece is needed somewhere. And then if this is the direction you are feeling called, you usually find me. And then we get to work. We talk about all the things holding you back. We talk about those nasty little mindset habits that are keeping you from helping others and fulfilling this destiny that you have and that you desire. And once we get the mindset stuff out of the way, we know for sure we're connected. We're accepting our call. We're mastering our magic to really understand and know our abilities, right? And then we learn how to get paid, which means we remove the mindset blocks and start focusing on just building a business, believe it or not.
I feel compelled to share this. I was at a conference in Denver this last weekend, and one of the speakers put a puzzle piece under every single chair. And she was talking about how we each have our own piece. And she was describing it as like when you're doing a puzzle and, you get to the very end and there's one piece missing, how annoying that is. It's like, and her point was that who are you not to put your puzzle piece in? So I just,
No, that's a beautiful illustration. And that's just what I'm getting at,
Yeah. I love that. Well, we only have about 2 minutes left. So is there anything else that you'd love to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, just that if you're feeling the call, come find me. Come find me. Let me help you. I've got lots of free live trainings I do all the time, totally for free, just to get you started. Of course, if you want to work deeper with me and have access to me, there are ways to do that too. But there's a ton of ways to benefit from my knowledge on any of the subjects we've talked about today. And I'm a real person, so you can contact me and let me know how I can support you. And just there's lots of ways to do that. So yep, that website address you see right there would do the trick.
I love that. I love that so much. I just, find your generous spirit, I don't know, appealing. And that's the thing too. I want to mention this too, real quick. Like Oprah, nobody looks at Oprah and goes, "Man, you have so much money. You should be giving it all away." I mean, nobody looks at her like she's greedy or anything like that. I mean, in general, I'm sure there are people that do, but it's not like money is a bad thing. So I love that. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so very much for being on the show today. You have been an absolute joy and pleasure to spend time with. And I want to say thank you on behalf of the audience who's watching, because you are an amazing person. And everybody, you should reach out to her.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And everyone, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for now. We will be back later this week. We'll see you again soon.